Hey, Pastor John Perminsky here from Restore Church. Just want to welcome you to our podcast. For those of you who don't know me, I've been in the ministry for 30, going on 31 years, 27, almost 28 of those as the lead and founding pastor here at Restore Church. And I just want you to prayerfully consider supporting the ministry here at Restore Church. It can be a one-time gift or recurring gift. Just want to encourage you to do that. And welcome to our podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and here is today's message. So, hey, welcome to another Restore podcast. We're blessed to have our new worship leader, Nate Meek, with us. Nate, welcome home. It's been a bit. Man, take me back. We go back. Take me back to the events that led to you coming back to Ionia. You're going to school in Chicago. There was a whole lot going on. I mean, Nate's got an incredible story. We'll get bits and pieces of it, maybe do another podcast and get more. But man, take me back to the stuff that led to that.
Yeah, coming back?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, like so many young people do, I suppose, you set out into the world only to find out, oh, this is what real life is like.
Yeah.
So to paint a non-exaggerated picture of the situation, just so you know where I'm at the time mentally, I'm living in my friend who is a drug dealer. I'm living literally in his closet. My bed is on the floor in like just bigger than a twin bed. I could stretch out all the way on it, but It was like just bigger than a twin bed. So I'm in the closet there, literally living in that, and I'm doing any kind of drug that I can get my hands on, which wasn't a lot, but there was like some psychedelics in there, and smoking weed every single day.
How did you afford the drugs as a college student?
It was all free. I lived with a drug dealer.
Oh my God.
Just had an open faucet right there. Just take a drink anytime. I really wasn't a drinker.
Okay.
I don't know why. I just wasn't. And so few of my friends had pills. I don't even know what they were. It was like, just try this. Yeah. Okay. And so I'm in that mode, but all of a sudden I get this urge to visit home this one Christmas. Or I want to say it was Christmas. Maybe it was Easter.
Was it before Michael, your brother, passed?
So my brother passed away when I was a freshman in college.
Okay.
This was a few years after that.
Okay.
So I was like a junior in college.
Because I remember you coming back for the funeral.
Yes.
Because I did the funeral.
Yeah. I was living in Michigan at that time. I started out at GRCC.
Okay.
And then I switched over.
You got your scholarship in Chicago.
Yep. At DePaul University.
And didn't you have a music contract too?
That's part of the scholarship. So the way they did it, I'm not sure how all music colleges do it, but this was what you call a conservatory. So different scale, different expectations.
Okay.
You have a lot more classes, and you don't always get credit for every single class, even though you're taking it. So it's a part of your degree, but it's not built into the numbers of your degree.
Okay.
You have a point system. You build up credits.
How did they find out about you and offer you the scholarship?
Well, I went and I auditioned.
Okay.
And my friend was going there, and I wanted to live in Chicago.
So like you would audition for like a Juilliard or like...
Yes, yeah, exactly the same.
Okay.
So you go in, the panel of all the teachers, not intimidating at all, sit there, and you bring your prepared material and you perform, and they ask you questions. I did some ear testing, so like they'll play a chord, play some notes. What did you hear? You have to answer the questions, and I did some things really well. One particular thing I was never good at, I didn't do so good at. It was one of the ear training things. I got better at it, as time went on. But so got in there, and the scholarship covered everything but living. So what I opted to do was to get a job and to work, and so that all fell through. So now fast forward, I've dropped out of college because I didn't feel I could afford it anymore. My scholarship maintained, but because my grade, actually, believe it or not, I had really good grades. Like, I was on the dean's list. For me, that was hard to believe because in high school, I was not an A student.
But you were using drugs and you were still on the dean's list?
So yeah, let me fill in a couple more details. I suppose I go down there. I'm in college and getting along great with my professors, my peers, But then you peel back the layers of the social world in that area, and you see quickly that it's a party culture. So it was easy to just have access to things. I mean, I remember I would go to parties and I would when I did drink, I would drink so much, I don't think I knew I just would get very drunk.
Yeah.
And so I went to this one party and my friends sent me home in a cab by myself because I was incoherent. Apparently I was able to make decisions enough to get into my dorm.
Yeah.
Or not my dorm, my apartment. I don't know how I did that actually, but I remember being in the back seat of this car alone and the taxi driver asking me where I live, and the people put me in the car, my two friends, they were like, he's at this address, he's this place, here's the money. And they sent me there. So that was normal. People sometimes would carry me away from a party and my feet are dragging on the ground. And I have memories of looking up at them while they're carrying me. So that was my normal life. I had functional seasons.
Yeah.
And when I was functional, I was very good.
Yeah.
And I was very focused and I was very driven. And then I just had moments that I would plummet. And when I would plummet, it was always when something was really bad. So I'm leaving college. I'm basically dropped out. I've got no mobility, no upward means of anything, no way to support myself. My dad, who I had an estranged relationship with at the time, but was kind of on the mend a little bit. We both wanted it to work, but it wasn't on the mend.
Yeah.
But he would still send me money to get food. So that's how I ate.
Wow.
And it wasn't much, because food wasn't the same as it is now, but it also wasn't much. But it was enough for just a guy to just live off of enough. So, lots of rice and chicken and tomato paste for whatever reason.
Whatever.
Throw that in. I came up with good recipes with just those things. So I'm in that place where I am. I think looking back, I can clearly see my life is tanking. So as my life tanks, the unhealthy behavior increases because I'm satiating, I'm coping.
And you wanted to come back home.
Well, I had visited home every once in a while, and I was dating. So for anyone who's listening, I don't know if we actually specifically mentioned this, but at the time I identified and truly identified as being gay, and that's just what and no one challenged me, on that. Side note, if you have a relative or someone that you love and you're a Christian, I just want to speak hope into your perspective. I'm going to continue to share my story right now, but I just want to speak a little hope. It took me a while to find language for this, but when I shared my testimony publicly for the first time, I realized that one of the elements in my life is that people people outside of my family, without asking or helping me, accepted me at face value for being gay when I started to publicly come out.
Okay.
I'm going to break that down a little bit for you.
All right.
That's a problem because those people didn't actually know how and why I was arriving at that conclusion.
Right.
They just assumed I don't want to be hateful or something like that. And now that I'm older and I have kids, 5 kids, Lord willing, they don't have to go through what I did, but if they do, I'm going to be right there with them along the way. I'm never going to leave their side.
Right.
But I realized that's actually my mom who never accepted that part of me as my answer for my identity.
Right.
In the moment, I felt very frustrated with that. I didn't think she hated me.
Right.
We actually had a loving relationship.
But you expected everybody to accept it.
No, I didn't. Looking back, I don't know if I had that kind of attitude.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't like, you better accept me or whatever.
Right.
I mean, maybe I had the feistiness in me for that, but I think I just wanted acceptance.
Yeah.
I didn't want you to accept me because I was gay.
Right.
I just wanted acceptance.
Sure.
So But what people did is they took that one thing and they kind of made that everything about me.
Yeah.
But then they also didn't challenge me in that. And there was one professor in college who had no family tie to me whatsoever. And he tried to speak that into me. We drove, he's one of my favorite teachers. I don't think there's any reality of him ever listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
But if you're there, Dwayne Johnson, I love you. Dwayne, he was the best. He was like little shorter than me. I think he was in his 60s, and he just was a spitfire. And he commanded so much respect. He was so good at what he did. And he was a music teacher. But I respected him so much. I think I saw in him something that I wanted to be like man to man.
Yeah.
Didn't know it at the time. That was a layer there.
Yeah.
But he challenged me, and he goes, and I'm a kid on college campus wearing around a pink tote bag, purses, not identifying as a girl, just being the most flamboyant that I possibly could.
Sure.
Publicly, and everyone's just like, oh, that's just Nate.
Mm-hmm.
And but he kind of challenges me, and it like brings my mom's voice back up in my head, and I didn't really fight him. I actually felt that he was caring about me when he was saying that.
Or he wouldn't have taken it on.
No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't have, because he actually is a very important voice in the Grand Rapids area when I started college.
So it's amazing that the people that spoke directly to you, you didn't feel rejected by them.
No. Because there's a difference between, and goes back to the hope thing that I'm trying to convey. My mom, Dwayne, I said Dwayne Johnson. His name's Dwayne Davis. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson was not my teacher in college.
Couldn't say it.
But no, Dwayne Davis. I think that what I really wanted was, I wanted to be known, to be seen, and to be like loved.
Yep.
And if people had looked into my story that my mother knew, that my professor could kind of pick up on, they knew that there was more to this than just me being this flamboyant, like in your face, talented but deteriorating person.
Yeah.
And I think one thing I would like, if I was going to tell like if a parent was sitting in front of me and they were struggling with this, I would just say, like, don't discredit your relationship.
Right.
But if they feel the religion and they feel the fakeness of it, and if they feel like you're trying to change them, like, that will always push people away, no matter what they're going through. Yeah. But if you're a believer and you look at how you came to walk with Jesus, it was his kindness.
Yeah.
And he was just planting seeds along the way, confidently knowing that eventually, just like a plant, all that work that farmers do to cultivate it, eventually it grows. Yeah. And he knows how to tend it. And at the right time, there's that fruit, that harvest of salvation. Yeah. But if we go in as what people react to, that they do is they don't do this. People don't do this to Jesus. If they sense Jesus on your life and you never say it, but they're like, what's different about you?
Yeah.
That people are not turned off by Jesus. Yeah. They're turned off by their filter that they have over their eyes about Jesus because of how someone else treated them, or their parents, or their whatever. So the hope in this, the important takeaway, I just want to tell parents and like friends of people, that are struggling. The hope is that, Jesus is the hope. And if you have Jesus, just give him Jesus. Yep. Let him feel Jesus' love, not your conversion therapy.
And we'll probably bounce around because we have been in relationship for so long, but I can remember when you started getting involved here at the church, I can remember you saying that you were accepted and you weren't treated any differently than anybody else.
You never did.
Yeah.
You'd razz me, but that's you.
Yeah.
It's always been apparent that we're just having a good time.
Yep.
But I never felt alienated by you. And
why I didn't alienate you, or, because I'll confess that, and you know this, but Lisa was the one that got a heart for you, and she was the one that was pushing me to pray for you. And I'm like, Lise, I got enough challenges. This guy's like fully immersed in this lifestyle. You want me to take that? How do I even know he even wants me to reach out to him? I'm not. You and his mom, you handle this. And then I can remember when you began to you pursued the Lord with such an intensity that I never worried about you. I never thought like, oh, sure, Nate he's starting out with the Lord, but I mean, he's been immersed in that lifestyle for so long. It's only going to be, I don't ever remember having thoughts like that, because I saw how you worshiped. I saw how you would be down at the altar all the time, just your pursuit. And we can all analyze, where somebody's relationship with the Lord is at. We can all try to guess, but your pursuit was authentic and your pursuit was genuine. And because of that, I just thought, oh man, good for Nate. Wow, look what God's doing. Mm-hmm. And then it was just like a natural, never even, questioned, when Pastor Jared at the time said, I'd like to bring Nate on as an intern. Oh, great. Bring Nate on as an intern. And then you began to get involved in worship. And then before I know it, you're leading songs. And then, geez, you're married and you've got one kid and two kids, and Tiana's pregnant with the third kid, and
we moved to Ludington.
Yeah, and you answered the call. I mean, it's just been a mind-blowing journey. But I think the thing that I appreciated about you the most is that your pursuit of God was always authentic, and you weren't like a guy that was saying one thing and living another. It just really wasn't who you were. And
I can tell you that boils down to the defining moment with me and the Lord. So back to the sequence of events to get me back here.
Yeah.
I come back because I felt drawn home. My mom had been praying and she just told me very calmly, I remember it was just very calm. She goes, I just feel like this is going to be an important weekend for you. So I'm glad you're here. Pastor Lee was the guest speaker. Talks about palm trees.
Oh, I remember the message.
I recommit my life to the Lord because I was saved as a kid.
Yeah.
Recommit my life to the Lord. There's the hope.
Yeah.
When my mom never, I felt Jesus and I felt her love for me, and I never questioned her love for me. And there was that relationship there, and by which I felt good to come home, even though I knew she disagreed. So those lines are safe to give people who are struggling with their identity. And each person's going to have a different way of figuring out how to, walk that out with somebody. But there I am, and I am going back to Chicago after committing my life to the Lord. And I waffle between the worlds because I'm back in the environment that I came out of.
Yeah.
But here's what's crazy. I knew that I knew at that point. It's like I could see, like, if God was true north.
Yeah.
I could see how my trajectory was.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I know you're there. And I know that I'm not headed towards you. And in your kindness, you're not making me feel bad for that. You're just going, the invitation's there. If you want me, you can have me.
Yeah.
That's also part of the hope that I hope to transmit to people when I share my story is, you can't do anything about a hard heart. It's someone's responsibility.
Yeah.
But if you don't give them the opportunity to choose God or the other, you're actually holding back on them.
Yeah.
So for me, because I saw that line, because my mom wasn't just like, oh, Nate, here's a purse.
Yeah.
Here's a, whatever, inappropriate outfit.
Yeah.
Or here's money for the club. Like, here's money for drugs. Like, whatever it was. She allowed me to live with my own choice of I'm going my own way or God's way.
Yeah.
That's the part that she was responsible for. And she did that well, very well. But I'll tell you, she prayed.
Yeah.
She prayed God's word over me.
Yeah.
I'm certain that she prayed for me and what she wanted. But she said that when her prayers broke through, it was when she was praying God's word over me.
Yeah.
And the prayer that she prayed was, may he be found in the house of the Lord, singing to God all the days of his life.
And I can remember Lisa getting a word for you when you had moved back. You're living with your mom.
Mm.
She said, Nate, I see you in front of, I can't remember all of the specifics, but
This was when Michael died. So the morning after Michael died, you guys were at my house, my mom's house.
Yeah.
And she walked off the front porch and into the living room, and I was standing there, and
I can remember
she
that.
delivered the word. I don't know. I think maybe she got it in that moment, maybe not.
Uh-huh.
But she said, what I remember her saying to me was, God's just going to use you in music in a powerful way.
I thought I remembered that there was an aspect where she saw you in front of a crowd.
Could be.
Leading worship.
Okay.
Something like
That would be like God to... Yeah. Okay, so this is where I wanted it to go. Okay, This is where it gets spicy. Here we go. Okay, I've been personally wrecked by this lately. Help me find language if this isn't making sense.
Okay.
I've shared this with my wife, and I think she kind of gets my heart, so it's easy to just say it. You know. I keep thinking of Mary Bethany.
Okay.
She, as far as we know, was Lazarus' sister, but she, as far as we know, was the same Mary who they were going to stone. Is that correct? Where he says, you who has the,
Or I don't think she's to be confused with the Mary that they cast 7 demons out of, that Jesus cast, Mary Magdalene. I don't think
No, not her. But who is the girl who...
And they never gave her a name.
Okay.
So it could have been.
So let's not say it's the same person. It doesn't change the revelation that I'm sitting under. Jesus sees brokenness, but beneath the brokenness sees the worship of Mary.
Yeah.
Imagine, like, what astounds me is how many times in Christian circles people look at difficult situations and they actually don't have the perspective or the heart of God in that moment.
Yeah. And what's amazing, and sometimes we conflict 2 stories. There's the story of Mary with the alabaster box.
Yes.
And then
that's
there's
Mary of Bethany, right?
I believe so.
Yes.
And then there's the story of the woman that was weeping over Jesus's feet and drying the tears with her hair. I think those...
Talking alabaster box. Like, she poured it out, and Jesus says...
Okay, those might be 2 different accounts, but either or. Here's what's beautiful. Because the worship expression was authentic, Jesus received it.
Mm-hmm. And we, as Christians, prohibit sometimes. Even I.
If he knew what woman that was.
But if you look at people, how Jesus looks at them, you see who they can be in the Lord.
Yeah.
But you can also prevent them from being that person.
Well,
not directly, but you can.
And when does Jesus turn anybody away that genuinely comes to him? When?
Look at literally my story.
Yeah.
I'm seeing myself in this.
Yeah.
I'm going, God knew how deep the brokenness is.
Yeah.
And therefore he knew how deep the worship would be.
Yeah. He who's forgiven much, loves much.
And you've been talking about this on Sundays, and every time I note this, because I'm like, whoa, think about it. What have the generations younger than me, I'm 36, people younger than me have been in even more than what I have.
Yeah.
But how cool that we get to be a part of a time when there's a possibility for that level of worship to just be normal.
Yeah.
For God's presence to just permeate that much. I don't want to prevent that. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to be one of those people that prevents
Here's a verse that I don't think I've seen fulfilled, yet I think it's a big part.
You go to Isaiah?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm with you.
It says, verse 19 or 18, don't call
43.
my former thing. Yep.
Yeah, Isaiah 43.
So I'm going to do something new. Now it'll spring up. Will you not be aware? I'll make roadways in the wilderness, rivers. The animals of the field will glorify me. The jackals and the ostriches, because I've given waters in the wilderness and rivers in the desert to give drink to my chosen people. The people whom I formed for myself will declare my praise. So God can use jackals and ostriches. And I've looked up those animals, and jackals are animals that make their dens in desolate places, and ostriches are known for abandoning their eggs in the sand after they lay them. The Bible talks about ostriches as not being very smart. They'll lay their eggs in the sand and they'll abandon them. And I feel like that is exactly who God is going to use.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to use the outcasts. He's going to use the people that have been abandoned from a young age by their own parents. He's going to use them, and he's going to use them for his praise.
Yeah.
And I can remember hearing someone, I can't remember who said it, but he said, I see a revival coming like the Jesus revolution that happened in the 60s and the 70s. Wasn't Wayne Drain?
I've heard him say that.
And so he said back then it was with the hippies. He said now it's going to be all the people coming out of their identity crisis.
Identity crisis, yes. That's because that's fundamentally what it is.
Yeah.
People are putting, people are putting their identity in a whole other place, and we don't even, like, you have to, on a personal level, like, I had to come to the realization that who I am in God informs my identity.
Yeah.
Not the other way around.
What a leap for someone to get there too.
Yeah. And when you do, you start to see, in culture, what we're saying is our identity actually supersedes everything else. And
I love it. I think it was Peter. I think it's 1 Peter that he says, once you were people that had no identity, but now in Christ you have an identity. I didn't know who I was until I knew Christ. I was clueless as to, if you were to tell me back when I was just a pot smoking, heavy drinking, coke snorting, that I was going to move to Ionia with my wife and sons, and that we were going to pastor, I'm like, no flipping way. There's no way that it would happen.
Isn't it interesting that if you're corn, you're only going to reproduce corn? I just think it's funny. You kind of have that, you've always had that Mary spirit about you. And so many people that I know that have been under your ministry, the number one thing is always that heart for worship, that spirit of Mary. I don't mean to be critical. I want things to be set into, like a bone being reset, so that we can actually be productive when I'm about to say this next thing. So this is not a critical thing towards the church, but I really do think that we look sometimes at people and we actually have the ability to be an influence, but we're even preventing that from happening outside of Sundays because of how we view other people. We're not, like, I truly believe that the desire of the Lord's heart is to actually reveal his heart to us, so that then we can have his heart when we go out into the world to minister to people. And what that actually unfortunately points out is we're not there yet.
Well,
as a cultural statement for the American church.
I don't have a problem with that. And here's what's scary. Jesus said, greater works than these shall you do. The majority of Jesus's ministry was done outside the synagogue. And it's not like, he didn't heal people and that he healed the man with a withered hand. And usually that was to confront the religious, but the majority of his ministry was done outside the synagogue. What if in the last days, churches are the equipping centers and the spiritual hospitals that they're supposed to be, and they go reach the world like we've been called to do? I believe that the greater part of ministry that we're always looking to happen in church services and in special services, not saying that there haven't been amazing moments here, but I believe some of the most miraculous stuff we're going to do is going to be outside of the church. And I believe the vision behind what we've done the past couple of years in our worship at the grounds events, collaborating with other like-minded, like-spirited churches. And it's a shame I have to say that, but not all the churches are like-minded and like-spirited today. And so
some are not even spirited of the Lord.
What is the spirit that's driving you? So Nate, I'm so convinced that the greater part of what God's called us to do we might be equipping in here, but we're to evangelize out there. And I've said it from the pulpit before. If we're not equipping in here and evangelizing out there, what are we doing?
Mhm.
I've heard, some individuals say to me, well, we need to be ministering to the body. And I'm thinking, no, we need to be equipping the body for the work of the ministry.
Mhm.
That's what the fivefold ministry is all about.
Ephesians 4.
That's what it's all about. So if I'm doing my job as an equipper, we're raising up people to go out and reach the world. And so we've got to be able to hang with people that, oh man, I don't know if we've got to be able to hang with the people that we might not be comfortable hanging around.
Jesus did.
Man, did he. They were accusing, you don't get accused of being a glutton and a wine bibber.
Right.
You can't I don't think they were falsely accusing Jesus. I think based on what they saw,
They were trying, they're like, seems inconsistent with what you're saying about yourself.
You know what? I've seen you have a glass of wine. I've seen you eating with those sinners. You're nothing but a glutton and a wine bibber. And he says, geez, John the Baptist didn't come eating and drinking, and you say he's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I came eating and drinking, and you call me a glutton and a wine bibber.
Yep.
So he was willing to risk his reputation to reach people that didn't know him. And
he went straight to brokenness. And then when he was there, if there was an open door, he took it with people. There's a scripture, someone that I really look up to and respect, his name's Caleb Culver. Some people might know him, some people, he's at Richland. He's the oversees all worship.
Shameless promo, Caleb, that was for free.
But it's important because he spoke a word over me once, and I forget the exact scripture but it's in the New Testament, and they're talking about the fragrance that comes off your life.
Yep.
To some, it's a fragrance, but to the dying and to the world, it's a stench. And so I think on this theme that we're on here, it's just really important to know that I mean, in my own experience, I had to get to the point where, whether it was on Sundays or in regular life or wherever I am, that there are some people that are going to be drawn to that fragrance.
Yeah.
And I just want to be available for that moment and attentive and sensitive to that moment. But also to know that there are some people, like if you're ever in that room and you can sense, like the woman who grabbed Jesus and Jesus turns around and he felt virtue issue from him. Yeah. And she grabbed it and he could just feel it leave.
Yeah.
And she was healed. I'm telling you, there are moments where you're just going to feel, I don't know why the Holy Spirit's here right now.
Yeah.
I don't know why I feel that there's an open door for the gospel here, but there is.
Yeah.
I just experienced this in the last few months, and I was walking with a few people sharing my testimony, and I didn't even plan it. It was just like the fragrance of Jesus was like able to permeate in that environment, and people wanted it.
Yeah.
And I was like so blown away at that, and I was so grateful, and I actually still have a connection with them and going to continue to walk with them. I could not be more excited. And honestly, I feel like I found a piece of my family I didn't know was missing. And I think that was all just the Lord.
I think I'm finding, we'll go and we'll work out at, workout place, fitness place here in Ionia. And I'm reaching people there. And I'm not necessarily trying.
Right.
I might be in between sets and all of a sudden I'm in this conversation and then the light bulb's going on. Like, okay, I'm in a moment right here. My workout really isn't important right now.
But there's something happening.
Something's going down.
So I hear a lot in like smaller groups of conversations talking about politics, talking about the darkness of the world.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry to be so contrasted to that.
Yeah.
But the darker that things are getting, the more hungry people are getting. And so here's what's crazy. Advertising for Jesus at this point is basically free.
Yeah.
Because there's no different. There's a huge difference.
Yeah.
But there's no comparison to how good God is compared to how dark the world is. And so advertising is free. When you walk into a place where people have been praying privately, God, if you're real, whatever, that you're just like the woman grabbing from Jesus. I think you're just gonna, in some cases, just discern.
Yeah.
Wow, God, you're here right now. What is happening? Okay. Okay. What? Okay.
And the people that we're seeing come to the Lord in the church now have become more evangelistic than ever, bringing people, and they can't help it.
Right.
And for me, it's kind of like, I know where there's a whole bunch of refreshing water to drink. Best water in town, not necessarily talking about our church, but the presence of God.
Presence of God.
And if you can just get them to drink,
Mm-hmm.
get them, everyone who's thirsty, come drink. Come drink of the waters.
Makes me think of an old song, All Who Are Thirsty.
Oh, that is an old one.
I love that song.
But why don't we, how about if we stop here? This would be part 1 with Nate Meek. And how about if we pick it up again the next time? Thank you, all of you that are listening to our podcast. Please share and like and just spread the word, okay? God bless till we see you again.